You know, I'm really excited about getting to Congress just because I want to hang out with Nancy Mace. I don't know if it's like trouble follows her or if I don't know what it is, but it's amazing. Every single day now, there's like every single day. Wait, why do I hear myself talking? I'm really excited about getting to Congress. There we go. Every single day now, it's like there's a brand new. Here's the things that I've realized are happening every single day. We get an amazing clip from Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller, who's the Deputy Chief of Staff at the White House for Domestic Affairs and illegal immigration, all that great stuff. We have just a fantastic, at least one fantastic clip from him every single day, sometimes more. We call it Miller time. The next thing we're starting to realize is we're getting Nancy Mace clips like there's no tomorrow. I mean, you know how like when somebody finds a TikTok trend or there's like a trending sound and like that, what's that one? It's my anxiety. Somebody's watching me. And for like weeks, every time you went on TikTok or every time you went on Instagram, or all you heard, you would just skip that. Ooh, anxiety. Ooh, my anxiety. And you couldn't escape it. Nancy Mace is the new anxiety. And I don't know, that sounds weird, but every single time I go online now, it's like Nancy Mace is trending and it's for some kind of really, really amazing clip that you would not expect somebody who is running for governor of South Carolina to put out there, but she does, man. She's just putting it out there like all the time. And it's not, it's not like somebody's, oh, look at this clip I found of Nancy Mace that I'm putting out there. And she just puts, that's the other thing, she puts it out there herself. Typically what happens is with some of these clips, like the one we played for you yesterday, you may remember yesterday. And if you don't, I'll play you a little bit of that clip, not the profane part, because it did get a little, there were some wordy dirts, but typically what happens is if a conservative Republican or a Republican lawmaker were caught in a store cursing at somebody at one of their constituents and it was caught on tape, typically some rando would post it online. Some citizen journalist would post it online, some left-wing lunatic hoping to go viral and hoping to bring down this conservative or hoping to, cause problems or whatever. That's not the case. Nancy Mace literally posts this stuff on her own account and she tags herself and she puts it up there so that everyone can see her, her tussling, if you will. Going head to head in all of these different situations. It's really kind of interesting. Anyway, we'll bring you the latest on that here in just a minute. And Pete Hegseth, it's a fight to the Hegseth between Pete and the media. There are new fake news narratives, by the way, now about Pete Hegseth and about, what's the date today? Today's the 22nd. Hang on, I got to find. Oh no, where did I put all those clips? Hang on, I had a bunch of Pete Hegseth clips. Oh, I think I put them in the wrong folder. That's all right. Anyway, so what happened was all of a sudden, Pete Hegseth is the target that the fake news media, and they go around from there's they start, everything of course is aimed at Donald Trump. They want to try to take down Donald Trump. They know that they can't. They've tried over and over again. They've tried to take down Donald Trump since 2016. Since he came down the escalator, they've tried to take him out. They've just been unable to. He won the election against Hillary Clinton. They were unable to take him out. They thought they took him out with COVID. Didn't work. He came back 4 years later, bigger, better, and stronger than ever. And they tried to take him out, literally take him out with bullets. Didn't work. He survived by the grace of God. And now he's back in the White House, back in the Oval Office. He's got an amazing team of individuals, and they're still trying to take him out. But they know that he's kind of an impossible target. He's very difficult to hit. So they're going for his lieutenants. They're going for his colonels. They're going for his generals. They're going for his cabinet members. And this week, it's Pete Hegseth who they're trying to take down, but they're failing miserably. It's really kind of, in fact, you know what, here, we'll start with that here in just a minute. But before we do, I want to make sure that you're subscribed to this channel because we get a lot of, it's amazing. We get a lot of ups and downs on this channel. Some days we've got like millions of views. Everybody's tuning in. And then of course the algorithm switches. And then the next day we get like 4. And I'm like, what happened to the millions of people that were watching? So we want to make sure that the best way to remedy that and the best way to make sure that you're constantly getting the information you need and want and desire and deserve and have to have is to like and share and also subscribe to or set the notifications for this channel. In fact, you should probably do. In fact, here's what I'm learning. The more you interact with this channel, the better. If you comment something, if you leave a thumbs up, whether you're on Rumble or YouTube or X, wherever you happen to be, the more you can interact with this channel in any way, shape, or form, the better it is for you and for me and for all of us and for humanity. That's the important. If you want to save humanity, then you should probably like and subscribe to this channel and definitely set the notifications, because that's very important for humanity's sake. But anyway, we'll get to all that. Well, like I said, we'll get to all that here before too long. I want to start off with Pete Hegseth, and the fake news media is going after Pete Hegseth. NPR, which I still don't even know why NPR is a thing. National Public Radio. Catherine, what's her name, the CEO, was up on Capitol Hill a couple weeks ago. Donald Trump and Doge have tried to get rid of this thing. I don't know why it's still there. Nobody likes NPR. Nobody trusts NPR. NPR is, God, it's just one of the single worst broadcast mediums or companies, or I don't even know what it is. It's National Public Radio. So it's actually public radio, but it's also, not only does it get taxpayer dollars, not only is your money used to fund NPR, but in addition to all of that, they also sell advertising. So they're like private radio, but no, they're public radio. And then on top of that, they have these fundraisers and these telethons where they just beg for money. So they're getting money from the government, they're getting donations from their listeners, and then they're selling advertising. Yet they somehow are always out of money, these people. They definitely should be Doge. If you have three different sources of income, if you're getting money coming in from donations and telethons, if you're getting money coming in from government grants, and if you're selling advertising, there's no way you should be broke. Everybody at NPR should be driving around in Ferraris and Rolls Royces. They should all be going to the south of France for the Cannes Film Festival. I mean, it's really irresponsible of them to take all this money, make all this money, and still walk around going, oh, we're so broke. We have no money. We're just, please don't defund the poor NPR people. They're necessary. I'm going to show you, by the way, what your tax dollars are paying for here in just a minute. But first, so NPR, they go after Pete Hegseth with a fake, phony report that President Donald Trump and the White House are looking around for brand new secretaries of defense.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston.
By the way, why do they always sound like this? Why do they always sound like a Saturday Night Live skit? I've worked with news people, and some of them, okay, fine, sound like that, but this is national public. This is the best you can get. Live in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnson. Why don't NPR news reporters have personality? I'm asking for a friend.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. NPR has learned that the White House has begun the process of looking for a new Secretary of Defense. That's according to an official who is not authorized to speak publicly. This comes as Secretary Pete Hegseth continues to find himself surrounded in controversy. Hegseth apparently shared details with his wife and brother just minutes after being updated on the Yemen strikes by a senior U.S. military official. That was in a second signal chat on his personal phone ahead of strikes in Yemen last month.
All right, so what they're doing is they're pulling up an old narrative. This is a narrative that they tried once before and they failed at. Do you remember the first time they brought up these signal? It was the war plans. It was Pete Hegseth, and it was Mike Waltz, and it was Marco Rubio. It was everybody. And this reporter from the Atlantic or from wherever it was, and all of these people, they were all on this chat. And what happened was Pete Hegseth was so irresponsible, and they were sharing war plans with reporters, and he needs to be fired. And this is basically the same exact thing that they've tried before. And Pete Hegseth was on Fox News with our good buddy Brian Kilmeade, and he basically said they've already tried this.
You remember when this all started, the first go around, because this is the second go around, right? They peddle old stuff, they kick it back up. I said repeatedly, no one's texting war plans. You know why I said that? Because I'm in the bowels of the Pentagon every single day. Just 10 minutes ago, I was looking at actual war plans of things that were ongoing or pending things to happen. Because that's on a regular basis on classified systems. That's my job for the war fighters, for the President of the United States. I look at war plans every single day. What was shared over Signal, then and now, however you characterize it, was informal, unclassified coordinations for media coordination and other things. That's what I've said from the beginning. At the beginning, it was left-wing reporters from the Atlantic who got a hold of it and then wanted to create a problem for the president. This is what it's all about. trying to get at President Trump and his agenda. Now, here at the Defense Department, because, Brian, I want this to be very clear. We take the classification of information very important. It's very significant to us that we safeguard it. And so when we had leaks, which we have had here, we did a serious leak investigation. And through that leak investigation, unfortunately, we found some folks that we believe were not holding to the protocols that we hold dear here at the Defense Department. Through that investigation, they have been moved on, and that investigation continues. As a result of that, everything we do here is above board, trying to make sure that we safeguard information. In this point, those folks who were leaking, who have been pushed out of the building, are now attempting to leak and sabotage the president's agenda and what we're doing. And that's unfortunate. It's not what I do. It's not how we operate. And so you've got another allegation being pushed again, not based on how we're operating around here. We're for the warfighters. We're for the president. And none of this is based in reality.
It's very interesting because you got Brian Kilmeade, who's Pete Hegseth's old buddy. I mean, they worked at the same network on the same show. And now Pete Hegseth is a guest describing what's going on in the White House and the Defense Department and the fake news media. And he's saying they tried all this before. Oh,
see you all.
Here comes Caroline Levitt. Hang on. Hold that thought.
Prayers of the entire White House remain with all of the Catholics around the world.
Hold that thought as we jump in real quick.
Pope Francis touched
and take a listen to Caroline Levitt live at the White House. We'll be back with Pete Hegseth. Don't go anywhere.
As a mark of respect for his memory, President Trump ordered flags be flown at half-staff, and he will be traveling to attend his funeral in Rome. The president will depart from Washington on Friday morning and return to the United States on Saturday evening following the funeral service. I can also confirm the dates of the president's trip to the Middle East. He will travel to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates from May 13th until May 16th. And on Thursday of this week, President Trump will welcome Norwegian Prime Minister at the White House for a working visit. The two leaders will discuss trade and regional security. This will be the 13th head of state visit of President Trump's term already. At the border, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to make America safe again. The Wall Street Journal captured the Trump effect in a recent article. Border crossings grind to a halt as Trump's tough policies take hold. U.S. Customs and Border Protection recorded its lowest southwest border crossings in history in March, and we're seeing the same successes at our northern border. Here's how the New York Post put it.
Oh, look at that.
Northern border sector previously overrun by illegal migrants sees dramatic drop in crossings. We haven't seen anyone since November.
That's when Donald Trump was reelected,
According
you may remember.
to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, just 54 illegal aliens were apprehended in the Swanton sector of our northern border, which stretches more than 300 miles in March. This is a drastic 95% drop from the more than 1,000 border crossings that were caught in March 2024. This is a main hotspot area that recorded more than 80% of all apprehensions along the northern border during the 2024 fiscal year. And new reporting from the Washington Times fully highlights the difference in Joe Biden's disgraceful approach to the border compared to President Trump's. Under Trump, border catch and release has dropped 99.99% from worst Biden month. You can't get much better than that. This statistic in particular is astounding. Border Patrol agents caught and immediately released 189,604 illegal aliens into the United States in December 2023 at the height of the Biden border crisis. But under President Trump, Border Patrol agents caught and released only 20 illegal aliens into the U.S. in the month of February.
That's pretty good.
Thanks to President Trump, operational control of the border is becoming a reality, and the administration's historic enforcement measures are yielding huge results. Illegal aliens are finally getting the blunt message. If you cross the border illegally, you will be swiftly deported and never return to the United States of America. Efforts to arrest the criminal illegal alien invaders are continuing to ramp up. ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of predatory sexual assault.
All right, while she rolls through these, I should also remind you that after we get done with Pete Hegseth, and I just want to see who's in the new media seat today and hear the first couple of questions, because these are always really great. These press conferences always turn out to be really, really great, really entertaining, really informative, and of course, every now and then a little combative, which I'm thrilled about. But we do also have more information about Democrats who are, I guess, I don't know if they're getting great miles or deals on Southwest, but they're all now wanting to go to El Salvador. Maxwell Frost from Florida led a coalition to El Salvador to meet with Well, really nobody, because he wasn't allowed to meet. He met with like the American ambassador, which is kind of dumb. He could have that could have been an email. But they wanted to meet with Abrego Garcia, just like Chris Van Hollen did, and they were denied. Plus, they had to pay out of pocket for the trip, because when they approached James Comer about paying for the trip, they were also denied. So repeatedly, they have been denied, yet they still continue to move forward. They still continue on, like, press forward on with this ridiculous narrative that somehow they have the power or the ability as elected representatives and senators from these various states to get Abrego Garcia back. And this guy, Maxwell Frost, this idiot is from Florida, which doesn't, bode well for us here in Florida, but at least he's... And I was much happier when he was in El Salvador than when he was in Florida or Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, he came back. Oh, this is important here. Let's bring this back up.
On May 5th, the Department of Education will resume involuntary collections for borrowers with defaulted federal student loans. The student loan portfolio controlled by the federal government is nearly $1.6 trillion. But fewer than 4 out of 10 borrowers are in repayment. This is unsustainable, unfair, and a huge liability for American taxpayers. Debt cannot be wiped away. It just ends up getting transferred to others. So why should Americans who didn't go to college or went to college and responsibly paid back their loans pay for the student loans of other Americans? The Trump administration will never force taxpayers to pay student loan debts that don't belong to them. Student loan borrowers need clarity, and we're finally giving it to them. Borrowers will now be clearly expected to repay their loans, and those who default on their loan obligations will face involuntary collections. The government can and will collect defaulted federal student loan debt by withholding money from borrowers' tax refunds, federal pensions, and even their wages. America is $36 trillion in debt. We must get our fiscal house in order and restore common sense to our country. If you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. It's very simple.
Those are all those Biden,
President Trump will
by the way,
not
loan
kick the
payments.
can down the road anymore. Before we open it up to questions today, I want to commend our pool photographer who is in the room with us today. ABC News photojournalist Melissa Young is retiring after 44 incredible years on the job.
Yikes.
Covering here at the White House.
44 years. Oh, there's Tim Pool. I guess Tim Pool's in the new media seat. Okay, so Tim Pool is in the new media seat, and he's getting... Where's this woman? Why aren't they showing the woman? I don't see her.
Melissa, congratulations. You have the largest round of applause I've ever heard in this room. So there's something we can all agree on, and you've had an incredible career here covering the White House. So congratulations to you, and we hope you enjoy retirement.
I will.
I'm sure you will. And everybody else in the room will be very jealous of you as you're enjoying your rest. All right, let's get to it. We have an individual in our new media seat today. His name is Tim Pool. He's a political commentator and a media entrepreneur with millions of followers, a very big platform. Currently hosts Timcast IRL, a daily news and discussions show, and The Culture War, a weekly podcast exploring cultural and political issues. His programs feature in-depth conversations on topics such as free speech, censorship, identity politics, and societal change, often engaging with a diverse range of guests. He's in Washington today because we are also hosting a local media row across the street in the Eisenhower building, which is a testament to our commitment to bring new voices into the White House to cover the president and this administration. So Tim, why don't you kick us off today?
Yes. Many of these organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by 2 different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland Man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on that unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is one of the reasons we
That was a
have
good
you
question.
in here. And there's many new faces in
That
this
was a
room
good
in
question.
comparison to the previous administrations. We want to welcome all viewpoints into this room. We welcome unbiased journalists who really care about the truth and the facts and the accuracy. And you rightfully pointed out the Maryland Man story, which I, from this podium, when The Atlantic published it, on that very first day, I came to this podium and said, this is wrong. The press in this room have this story wrong, and we have seen more and more evidence arguments come to the table that we have had all along. We were always right. The president was always on the right side of this issue to deport this illegal criminal from our community. And it is despicable to see the media continue to refer to this individual as someone who is just a peaceful man living his life in Maryland. This was and always has been an illegal criminal, an MS-13 gang member, and a designated foreign terrorist. And the administration maintains our position to deport these individuals from our community. So thank you for being here, Tim. It's great to see you. Thank you. Dasha, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. I have two questions, one on the Pentagon and another on the economy.
All right, let's start with the Pentagon question, then we'll move on.
On Fox News that the entire Pentagon is working against Secretary Hegseth. But the people who were fired were Hegseth's own guys. So how do you square that, and what do you say to concerns that that's bad management?
They were Pentagon employees who leaked against their boss to news agencies in this room. And it's been clear since day one from this administration that we are not going to tolerate individuals who leak to the mainstream media, particularly when it comes to sensitive information. And the Secretary of Defense is doing a tremendous job, and he is bringing monumental change to the Pentagon. And there's a lot of people in this city who reject monumental change, and I think, frankly, that's why we've seen a smear campaign against the Secretary of Defense since the moment that President Trump announced his nomination before the United States Senate. Let me reiterate, the president stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth in the change that he is bringing to the Pentagon, and the results that he's achieved thus far speak for themselves.
All right, good. That's great. That's a great way for us to get back into what we were talking about earlier, which was Pete Hegseth. And Caroline Levitt, look, she said the exact same thing yesterday when she was interviewed. She said, let me reiterate once again that there is nobody that is looking at Pete Hegseth in a negative way, that Pete Hegseth has the complete support of President Donald Trump, and that nothing that you are reporting in the news, nothing that you are saying is true. Pete Hegseth has not done anything wrong. We're not looking to replace him. None of that is happening. And the fact of the matter is that it's just more of the same, which is fake news. In fact, here was her statement yesterday.
Behind Secretary Hegseth, who is doing a phenomenal job leading the Pentagon. And this is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement. Secretary Hegseth was nominated for this position because he is standing up for the war fighter, the men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the line to protect our country and our homeland. And unfortunately, there have been people at that building who don't like the change the Secretary is trying to bring, so they are leaking and they are lying to the mainstream media. We've seen this game played before. The Secretary is doing a tremendous job, and the President stands strongly behind him.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened with NPR. They said, well, we have an unnamed source, an anonymous source coming from the administration. If you have an anonymous source coming from the administration, odds are they're full of you-know-what, or they are somebody that was fired, as Pete Hegseth said. We were getting rid of the leakers. We're getting rid of the troublemakers. And look, if somebody's going to leak information about you to the media, if they're going to tell lies about you to the media when they work for you, imagine they're not going to stop when they get fired. They're going to double down. If somebody is in your organization and they're spreading sensitive information and they're calling up the media and saying, oh, look, here's what's going on inside the Pentagon, and then you find out about it and you throw them outside the Pentagon, they're not going to go, oh, my fault, I'll never do it again. They're going to be like, oh yeah, well, watch what I do now. And they're going to start this media onslaught against Pete Hegseth, who is, again, one of the most effective secretaries that President Donald Trump has in his cabinet. And you can just look at the recruiting numbers. In fact, Brian Kilmeade this morning on Fox and Friends was talking to Pete Hegseth, and Brian Kilmeade went through all of the recruiting numbers. And when you look at them, it is amazing. It is incredible the amount of people stepping up, returning to warfare, returning to our selected service, and saying, yeah, you know what? I trust this commander in chief. I trust this Department of Defense. I trust Pete Hegseth. This is my time. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to defend my country. Just look at these numbers.
You are up 108% in November, 119% in February, 108% after the election, 105% with the Navy.
Okay, now this is insanity. This is insane. Now, of course, keep in mind, under Joe Biden, these numbers plummeted. Like nobody wanted to fight for Joe Biden. Nobody wanted their son or daughter enlisting under Joe Biden. Nobody thought that Joe Biden, the architect of the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, where 13 American Marines were killed by an ISIS-K bomber, nobody thought that guy would be responsible. No one wanted that guy responsible for their kids or their loved ones. So they were like, do not, under any circumstances, enlist. He's gone. Pete Hegseth's in. Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief. And you're talking about 118% in 1 month? That's
with
insanity.
The Marines up 112% and 100%.
Look at that, 112% in the Marine Corps in the month of November. President Donald Trump becomes president. Not even inaugurated. Just becomes president. And in November 2024, Marine Corps enlistment is up 112% of their goal. 106% in February. The Army, 108%, 115%. Wait till we get the Navy's next, I think.
They are through the roof. The U.S. Air Force, 100% of its goal. Same thing in February. And Space Force is also booming, over 100%. I think the warfighters are happy to have a warfighter up top, Mr. Secretary. With all this controversy, everything swirling around, have you ever doubted your decision to take this job?
Oh, not for a minute. I didn't hesitate when the president asked me, and I haven't hesitated for a moment, because those numbers are a reflection of why we're here. We call it the Trump bump internally. The reality is when war fighting and lethality is brought back, and it's serious, that what we're doing here is serious about getting after soldiering and war fighting, American people want to come back in. They want to sign up. These recruiting numbers don't surprise me. They don't surprise me one bit. They're a reflection of a yearning from the American public, of young people, to be proud of their country, to be proud of their military, to make sure when they serve, they're given everything they need. That's why I've fought for the budget that the Defense Department requires. And the president has said we'll have our first $1 trillion budget, because my kids, my 14-year-old, if he joins, he's going to have a great military. He's going to have peace through strength because of the historic investments of this president. So, no, I haven't blinked, and I won't blink. Because this job is too big and too important for the American people, and I'm grateful for every opportunity the president has given me.
Yeah, look at that. He's grateful for and he's 100% right. He says, look, I want a great military, not just for the people now, but for the future, for my kids. He's got Pete Hegseth has 1,100 kids. Okay, maybe not that many. It's 7. He's got a lot of kids. He's got more than the average person. Let's just put it that way. And Pete Hegseth is saying, if my kids want to join the military, I want them to be safe. I want them to be joining a military where lethality is the number one operational goal, where the mission is to successfully complete the mission with as few casualties as possible and with everybody coming home safely. That's his goal. That's what Pete Hegseth wants. That's what Donald Trump wants. And that's why you've got enlistment through the roof. And these fake news people, in fact, Donald Trump mentioned it yesterday at the White House. He walked around and goes, look at the fake news. Sometimes they have good days, sometimes they have bad days. But they asked him at the Easter egg roll, they said, President Donald Trump, are you still satisfied with your choice of Pete Hegseth? Do you still have faith in Pete Hegseth? And Donald Trump's like, absolutely. He's doing a fantastic job. If you don't believe me, just ask the Houthis.
I mean, I hear they're doing that whole thing again. Here we go again. Just a waste of time. He is doing a great job.
Why do you still have confidence?
Because he's doing a great job. Thanks, Ask the Houthis how he's doing. Ask the Houthis how much dysfunction there is.
Ask the Blowfish. Ask the Houthis. Ask the Houthis and ask the Blowfish. What do you think? How do you think Pete Hegseth is doing? I don't know. He's doing great.
Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think they've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees. You know, he was put there to get rid of a lot of bad people, and that's what he's doing. So you don't always have friends when you do that.
By the way, that's a double entendre. He was put there to get rid of a lot of bad people. That's not just bad people in the Pentagon. That's bad people in Yemen and around the world. He was put there because we got the Houthis we got to take care of, and then you got you got Houthis and whistleblowers. You got Houthis and leakers, and Pete Hegseth is taking care of all of them. And guess what happens when you take care of Houthis and leakers? The Houthis don't like you. The leakers don't like you. They become your enemies, and they will do anything they can to take you and your boss down. And that's why they're doing all of this again. And Pete Hegseth, by the way, Pete Hegseth was also at the Easter egg roll. This Easter egg roll was, as Pete Hegseth put it on Twitter, fire. I mean, who knew? We had the whole thing with the Easter Bunny where Donald Trump was calling out the Easter Bunny that had to help Joe Biden around. You had the Marine Corps band. They were phenomenal. But you got Pete Hegseth yelling and screaming with all 7 of his kids there about the hoaxsters in the media. And it was really, I kind of wish, of all the events, I kind of wish I was there.
What a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. This group, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much.
Hoaxsters like you. You put the hoe in hoaxsters. He's like, and this is interesting because first of all, the more you hang out with Donald Trump, it appears Donald Trump's rubbing off on Pete Hegseth for sure. He's sitting there, he's talking about all the old hoaxsters. He's talking about all the Russia fraud, all the hoaxes. You guys are hoaxsters. And then he starts yelling and screaming at the media, which is fantastic. And keep in mind, Pete Hegseth worked for Fox News. He hosted Fox and Friends, the weekend edition. He knows how the news industry works. He knows where the information comes from. He knows people that are just propagandists. He knows people that are just trying to get the headline or the clickbait. He understands how they can twist this information, how these organizations like NPR, they can try it once, doesn't work. What do they do? They try it again. It's the exact same thing they did with Donald Trump at the impeachment. They tried to impeach Donald Trump once, it didn't work. So what did they do? They tried it again with the same exact result, because Donald Trump doesn't play by the old rules. Donald Trump doesn't get scared. Donald Trump doubles down. And Scott Jennings on CNN said it best when he goes, look, if you're going to attack one of Donald Trump's friends, one of Donald Trump's lieutenants, if you're going to say to Donald Trump, this person who you handpicked to run the Defense Department, this person who you vetted, who you selected, who you said, this is the guy that's going to bring back vitality to our armed forces. This is the guy that's going to clear out all the DE&I and the woke BS. This is the guy that's going to lead us into the future. This is the guy that's going to inspire Americans, young Americans, men and women, to stand up and say, yes, I will sacrifice for my country. I will stand up and protect my country. I will dedicate my life to making sure that all enemies, foreign and domestic, are thwarted and put down so that my country will remain the greatest country on the face of the earth. This is the guy that's going to inspire him. Not Lloyd Austin, not that guy. It's Pete Hegseth. And it's happening because we just saw Brian Kilmeade report on all the amazing numbers, 112% for the Marine Corps in November. But Joe Biden was still president in November, but Donald Trump was on the way. Pete Hegseth was on the way. They saw it. They all knew it. They were like, okay, Semper Fi, Pete Hegseth's my guy. I'm jumping in right now. And you can look at what the media says, or you can look at the facts. And the facts say that Pete Hegseth is one of the most influential and successful defense secretaries we've ever had, because the Houthis are blowing up, and not in the good way. And the enlistment numbers are doing the same. And Scott Jennings pointed that out to everybody on CNN.
Donald Trump, the president, the commander-in-chief, may believe that Pete Hegseth, who he likes very much, is doing a good job. After all, the first major military operation of his presidency, our attacks on the Houthi rebels, seems to be going quite well, being executed with precision. And so I just think that when they get into these moments where you have Democrats going crazy against one of his people that he likes very much, their instinct is to dig in and fight the opposition party on these things. And I just don't get the sense from anybody in the White House that they think Pete Hegseth is doing a bad job. I mean, they believe morale among the soldiers is up since Trump became president. They believe recruitment is up, that people are wanting to come back into the military. So they're looking at other metrics, too, by which you would judge, is this person doing a good job? And I think they believe that he is.
They believe that he is because he is. It's easy to believe it when you have facts to back it up. It's easy to believe it when it's easy to see it. And you can see in the recruitment numbers, you can see in the military success, you can see all of these things. And fake news NPR, with their fake, phony reporting on these fake, phony administration officials. What was it here? I'm going to play it one more time. Please don't fall asleep. I'm going to play this one more time because I want to remember verbatim what this woman said.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. NPR has learned that the White House has begun the process of looking for a new Secretary of Defense. That's according to an official who was not authorized to speak publicly.
Okay, an official who was not authorized to speak publicly. That means that either A, they're leaking information they shouldn't leak, or B, they're not an official at all. If you're an official and you're authorized to speak publicly, that's one thing. If you're an official and you're not authorized to speak publicly, then there's no way that there's any credibility to this story because you can't back it up. Nobody's going to come forward and say, oh yeah, that was me. I know I wasn't supposed to give an official statement, but I did. And clearly this is a smear campaign hit job by NPR and whoever Pete Hegseth's enemies on the inside of the administration happen to be today. Yet NPR runs with it. Here's a rundown, by the way. The Trump administration posted this. Where is it? Hold on. Here it is. The Trump administration. Look, I was making one of those action figures again for myself. The Trump administration posted this the other day. Look at this. This is the NPR PBS grift has ripped us off too long. For years, Americans have been on the hook for subsidizing NPR and PBS as they spread radical woke propaganda disguised as news. Here are some examples of the trash that passes for news at NPR and PBS. Are you ready? I'm going to read some of these. In 2024, NPR ran a Valentine's Day feature around queer animals. This is from Rapid Response 47, the official Rapid Response X account for the White House. These are actual NPR documentaries and series and anyway. In 2024, NPR ran a Valentine's Day feature around queer animals in which it suggested the make-believe clownfish in Finding Nemo would have been better off as a female, that banana slugs are hermaphrodites, and that some deer are non-binary. Okay. In 2024, PBS produced a documentary making the case for reparations. America Reframed: The Cost of Inheritance. In 2023, PBS's Washington Week Roundtable covered up Joe Biden's clear mental decline, with far-left journalist Jeff Goldberg claiming Biden is actually quite acute. In 2022, NPR educated the nation on the whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts and transceratops. I mean, here's a little quote. Riley: many people who are queer, whether they are trans or some other form of genderqueer or whatever it is, we love dinosaurs. Ben: along with being a dinosaur expert, Riley is herself transgender, and according to Riley, there is a whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts online. We had no idea, so we checked it out. Sure enough, there were. We found dozens of paleo artists online that identify as queer. This is just... in 2021, a PBS station aired a children's program that featured a drag queen named Lil Miss Hot Mess. In 2021, NPR reported on the cousin of diet culture known as healthism, which is the idea that we have to be healthy, as if saying that was a bad thing. In 2021, NPR suggested doorway sizes are based on latent fat phobia. In 2021, NPR lamented that animals deserve pronouns too. Opinion. Animals deserve gender pronouns too. In 2022, NPR ran a feature titled "What Queer Ducks Can Teach Teenagers About Sexuality in the Animal Kingdom." I'm going to be honest with you. It is an uncomfortable infatuation with queer animals on NPR. That's like the third or fourth special. They had the dinosaurs, they had the deer, now there's queer ducks. I don't understand what's going on. In 2022, PBS show Sesame Street partnered with CNN for a town hall aimed presenting children with a one-sided narrative to address racism. I do remember that, actually. It goes on and on. I mean, there's so many of these. In 2017, PBS produced an entire movie celebrating a transgender teenager's so-called changing gender identity called Real Boy. In 2015, NPR dedicated an entire segment to the population of anthropomorphic animal enthusiasts known as furries. Long the butt of jokes, the worldwide population of anthropomorphic animal enthusiasts known as furries continues to grow, and every summer they gather in Pittsburgh for the world's largest furry convention dubbed Anthrocon. It goes on and on and on and on. This is the organization that is passing as a news organization that just outed Pete Hegseth, saying that, oh, he's in trouble, that the White House is searching, they're looking right now for a brand new Secretary of Defense because Donald Trump is over this guy. It's really just so irresponsible, isn't it? It's really just so irresponsible. Listen, real quick, I just wanted to share something. It looks like we got a Rumble rant on our Rumble. I'm trying to pull it up here. It just keeps disappearing, but I'll just read it because I can't get it. It's from Florida Trumper. Hey, Mark, love you, brother. Keep up the fight. Weird thing, autocorrect will not show fentanyl when posting on Facebook. That is weird. I appreciate that. I don't know why you're writing fentanyl on Facebook, but I definitely appreciate. We'll look into that. I'll definitely, next time I talk to Mark Zuckerberg, and we appreciate the super chat. Oops, $20. That's a very generous super chat, and we appreciate all the support. If you would like to leave or that's a Rumble rant rather. If you'd like to leave a Rumble rant on Rumble, we will do our best to get it on the show for you. If you'd like to leave a super chat on YouTube, we would love that as well. Just do whatever you can, and we will make sure that we highlight you and shout you out, because that is something that is very important. Not just to you, we understand, but also to the show. Let's get back to the news here real quick, because there's a lot of other stuff that we have to share with you. There's a couple of these Democrats who went to El Salvador. Now, we know about Senator Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen went to El Salvador, had margaritas with Abrego Garcia, came back empty-handed, went on all the news shows and said, well, I talked to this guy and he's very upset because he's in prison and he's not with his family. Well, no kidding. Did you ask him if he's an MS-13 gang member? Well, no, I didn't, as a matter of fact. And surprisingly, by the way, do I have this here? Yeah. Surprisingly, it's really interesting to me that CNN, it looks like, was pressing Chris Van Hollen on the idea that he did not ask Abrego Garcia if he was in fact a member of MS-13.
But you told my colleague Dana Bash yesterday that you did not ask Abrego Garcia whether or not he's actually in MS-13. You said you know what his answer is. But how do you know if you did not ask him?
Well, because I know what he's said many times in court, and that's the proper forum for debating this.
Oh, there you go. We can't debate it anywhere else. It's got to be in court. So if he says in court, I'm not an MS-13 gang member, then clearly he's not an MS-13 gang member, even though we have documents from the Defense Department, we have documents from the Department of Justice, we have police reports, we have we have reporting from El Salvador, we have multiple different sources claiming, not to mention the tattoos on his left knuckles, proving that he is a member of MS-13. But that's neither here nor there. Not to be outdone by Senator Van Hollen, there was another group of representatives, this time led by Maxwell Frost, and they headed to El Salvador because they wanted also to meet with Abrego Garcia. And fun fact, they were not in an official capacity because they were not given the go-ahead by the House of Representatives, namely James Comer, who said, look, I'm not actually I'm not actually going to make this an official trip. This is a letter from the chairman of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, James Comer, who wrote to Robert Garcia and Maxwell Frost. Dear Representatives Garcia and Frost, I write in response to your letter of April 15th, 2025, requesting that I approve from the committee's budget official travel for you both to visit the country of El Salvador to meet with a foreign MS-13 gang member whose wife accused him of crimes and who is strongly suspected of human trafficking. It is absurd that you both displayed active hostility for over 2 years toward the committee's oversight of the Biden border crisis and the consequences of millions of illegal aliens entering the country. Yet now you are seeking travel at committee expense to meet with foreign gang members. You may be pleased to know that a Democrat Senator, Chris Van Hollen, was photographed just yesterday in El Salvador enjoying margaritas garnished with cherry slices with the foreign gang member your letter references. If you also wish to meet with him, you can spend your own money. But I will not approve a single dime of taxpayer funds for use on the excursion you have requested. Your request is denied. Sincerely, James Comer. Now, I don't think anyone was shocked by this, but to their defense, Maxwell Frost went anyway. He said, "Look, you know what? He can turn it down, but I'm just gonna go anyway." And he and Garcia and a bunch of others, I guess on their own dime, or somebody paid for it, flew down to El Salvador on an unofficial trip in an unofficial capacity, wanting to meet with Abrego Garcia. And much like with James Comer, they were denied access because they're basically just tourists at this point. Their own representative, their own Congress said, you can't go down there in an official capacity. We're not going to pay for you to go in an official capacity. You're more than welcome to go down there in an unofficial capacity. But when you show up there, don't expect to get any special treatment because you're just tourists. So these tourists, they roll up, these lunatic left-wing tourists roll up to the embassy and demand to see Abrego Garcia. And El Salvador says, lo siento, it's not going to happen. So now the media is asking the question, so what's going on there? Why are you in El Salvador? In fact, Will Cain from Fox News asked that very question. You're from Florida. In addition, why are you in El Salvador?
Why, Congressman, are you in El Salvador? You are there for an El Salvadorian man who was a resident illegally of Maryland. You're a congressman from Florida. Why are you in El Salvador?
Well, we're here because a man who had protected status in Maryland, a Maryland man, union member, worker with a citizen wife and beautiful children, was taken out of his state and out of the United States back over here without due process. And for us, we're here for a couple of reasons. Number one is because every person in our country deserves due process. And we want to make sure that we draw the line here at Kilmar Garcia.
Okay, couple things. First of all, Will Cain's absolutely right. You are a representative from Florida, and Abrego Garcia was living illegally in Maryland. He's not an American. He's an El Salvadoran. You're an American representative in the U.S. House of Representatives. Why on earth are you in El Salvador meeting with this guy? And he goes, we want to make sure he gets due process, just like everyone in America. Fun fact, he's not in America. And not only is he not getting back to America, but you're not getting anywhere near him. And he was on CNN or MSNBC or one of those, sitting in an empty room, just embarrassing himself.
And we're here because we believe.
Hold on, wait, that's not it. Is this one here?
Well, he started up on.
No, hold on, wait, that's not it. Where is it? It's this one here.
What do you know? Is there any chance you'll be meeting with Abrego Garcia while you're there?
Well, we're actually about to do a press conference to speak a little bit about this, but we got word at the embassy that our request has been denied by the government here locally. They say it's because we're not here on an official capacity. This is part of the reason why Representative Robert Garcia and I sent a letter to Chairman Comer of the Oversight Committee asking for this to be an official codel. But we're not giving up. We're going to continue. We have more meetings scheduled for the rest of the day. But part of this, too, is making sure that we keep the conversation alive. We're building off of the trip leadership of Senator Van Hollen. And we're not the first members here, and we're not going to be the last.
I mean, I think you're probably going to be the last members there. Any other members that go there are just wasting more time, wasting more money, I mean, really, your job as a representative of the United States of America is to represent members, represent Americans in the House of Representatives. And they're not doing that. They're wasting their time with these meetings, which, by the way, how are these meetings going? Well, listen to this.
And we're here because we believe that the rule of law should be followed by everyone, including the President of the United States. And we're in a situation where the administration has sent someone here to El Salvador by mistake, admitted to it. A Supreme Court decision has come down to say you need to facilitate the return of this man back to the United States so he can go through due process. And the administration is saying, no, we're not going to do it. In fact, we just had a meeting earlier today with the embassy. We left that meeting with absolutely zero indication that this administration has is going to facilitate or wants to facilitate the return of Brego Garcia back to the United States so he can go through due process.
Oh, yeah, they said, look, we just actually had a meeting at the embassy, and there's no evidence that they're going to facilitate the return of Brego Garcia. We could have told you that. They could have told you that via email. This entire trip could have been an email. They could have written to the embassy and said, yes, we'd like to come down there and meet with Brego Garcia. And the embassy could have been like, hold that thought. I'm sorry, that request is denied by El Salvador. And then they could have said, well, wait, we want to know, is the Trump administration doing anything to facilitate? Hold that thought. No, they're not. I mean, it could have been, you could have saved yourself so much time and energy and so much egg on your face because really, you look ridiculous. I mean, you look ridiculous anyway, but now you look even more ridiculous because you're wasting your own time. You're wasting your own money. You're the chairman of your own oversight committee is telling you you can't go down there. Your embassy is telling you you can't meet with this guy. El Salvador is saying we're not going to do anything for you because you're not here in an official capacity. You're calling a press conference and you're literally telling the press we've accomplished absolutely nothing. You're going on MSNBC saying we've done absolutely nothing. But you know what we're doing? We're going to have more meetings. More meetings for what? So more people can tell you that you look like an idiot. More people can tell you you're wasting your time so you can get back in front of a camera in an empty room. Where even is this guy? Look at this. This guy is, I don't even know where this guy is, but look at him. He's here.
What do you know? Is there any chance you'll be meeting with a...
It's like he's in an empty room. They couldn't even get a conference room or something. They couldn't get, that room is as empty as this guy's head, by the way. This is Maxwell Frost, incidentally. He's the youngest member of Congress, and it's definitely showing. I hope to God there's, just for their own sake, I hope that the Democrats understand that going back down there is not going to benefit anybody. It's not going to benefit any individual Democrat, except maybe Chris Van Hollen gets maybe he gets on a presidential ticket in 2028. I don't know. But it's not going to benefit the Democrats. It's not going to benefit the Democrat Party. Because what they're doing now is they continue to push for illegal immigrants over American citizens. Illegals over Americans. The rights of illegal immigrants are more important than the rights of American citizens in the eyes of the entire Democrat Party. They're all behind this. They're all on the same page. Really, really weird. I'm not really sure why it happens, but it's happening. And the courts... it's not just the Democrats in the Congress, of course. It's the Democrats in the Senate and the House. It's the Democrats in the media, but it's the Democrats in the court system. And man, Stephen Miller, this guy, he's had enough. He's like, this is crazy. These courts siding with these illegal immigrants, these courts telling President Donald Trump he has no right to deport these people, that they all require the same due process that any American citizen would get in a court of law. That's just crazy.
It's insane to all thinking people. You have, in this case, illegal aliens from Venezuela sent here by Maduro who are members of a foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua, an organization that the intelligence community has found is operating at the direction of a hostile adversarial foreign regime carrying out criminal enterprises to destabilize the political system in the United States. Those are the facts when it comes to TDA. So they're all illegal, they're all gang members, they're all foreign terrorists. And now we are being told that they cannot be expelled from our country without an extraordinary amount of individualized adjudication at the district court, circuit court, Supreme Court, up and down, up and down, up and down. No American citizen receives this level of so-called due process. Because it isn't due process. This is called infinity process to keep you here forever. Yeah. That's what this is.
Oh no, it's crazy.
No American citizen charged with a crime, with a serious crime inside the United States, a U.S.-born American citizen receives this kind of process. Millions of dollars in free legal services, representation at every single level. Do you think that there is any, for example, any American citizen who was persecuted, who was innocent related to January 6th? Do you think they could just get this kind of relief, this kind of process? No. It was never available to them.
Yeah.
The whole system was rigged against them, just like it's rigged in favor of illegal alien invaders.
Yeah, and Stephen Miller, by the way, and the other point, and you can tell that he's about sick and gosh darn tired of talking about this kind of thing. Every single day, Stephen Miller has to go on the news. He's got to talk to these reporters. He's got to go on Fox. He's got to go on Newsmax. He's got to talk to Carl Higbee, and he's got to say the same thing over and over again, that there is no expectation of due process when it comes to the Alien Enemies Act and these illegal Tren de Aragua members or these MS-13 gang members or these terrorists who are labeled. I mean, it's been labeled a terrorist organization. And it's crazy for all of these judges and all of these Democrats and all of these people in the media to demand that there be due process for all of these folks. It's just impossible. You can't do it. And he's also saying, look, how much time are we wasting? How many Americans are not having their grievances heard? How many Americans are not having their problems solved because our military, because our law enforcement, because our judicial system, because our representatives, because their government officials are lollygagging and prancing around and defending non-Americans, putting America and Americans last once again because they never learn.
How many pressing constitutional issues have been swept aside that American citizens need resolved,
right,
who are being persecuted by left-wing mayors, left-wing governors, left-wing bureaucrats who actually need relief? How many of their concerns have been swept aside so our entire judicial system can spend hour after hour, week after week, month after month scrutinizing every single last detail of a deportation of an invader sent here by a foreign government?
By the way, a couple of things. First of all, I love watching these clips of the Easter egg roll because both Caroline Leavitt and Stephen Miller came and did these press hits right after the Easter egg roll. They're both in like their Easter best. Stephen Miller's wearing like a light blue coat with a light green tie. He looks like he just walked off the set of a Doris Day movie. And now he's like screaming and yelling about the court system. It's amazing. Caroline Leavitt was talking about Pete Hegseth earlier. She had this like flowery Easter dress on. It's very fun to see them in their Easter best. And then they walk right in front of the camera and just like launch into full, media mouthpiece mode. It's really exciting. One more thing, by the way, that I did want to bring up because there's a couple of issues here. The first issue is that there are Democrats who, for whatever reason, are not understanding the way that this works. They're not understanding that the president of the United States was elected by a majority of individuals, not just an electoral majority, but the popular vote majority. Pummeled Kamala Harris, won all 7 swing states, won more electoral votes than he ever has. It has a mandate from the American people, and one of those mandates was to keep America safe again, to shut down the border and to get all the illegal immigrants out of here. The other mandate was to fix the economy, make America wealthy again, cut taxes, increase the tariffs, make sure that we're getting fair trade, bring down the price of pretty much everything. All of these things, and the war in Ukraine, stop sending money to Ukraine, all of these things that President Donald Trump is doing on the daily that the Democrats are infuriated with, and they still believe that the winning issue is to, I guess, attack President Donald Trump on these issues. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But they think, I guess, that at some point they're going to come back to power. In fact, Jamie Raskin, who's also from Maryland, and I don't know when Maryland decided to become the epicenter of Democrat stupidity, but Jamie Raskin was basically threatening other countries when dealing with Donald Trump and trade negotiations. Listen to this.
So I like that idea, and it's a complement to something that we need to be doing right now, which is engaging in far more work of transnational democratic solidarity with the democratic governments and the democratic movements and peoples and parties of the world.
Totally agree.
To try to prevent the spread of the lawlessness and the fascist chaos that's been unleashed against us. But implicit in it should be the idea that if and when we come back to power, and we will, we are not going to look kindly upon people who facilitated, to use a word of the day, who facilitated authoritarianism in our country. Because that's an assault on our Constitution and on our people.
All right, so he's saying, look, if and when we come back to power, and we will, I mean, it's going to be a long time if you keep pushing these things, and we will, we are not going to look kindly on people who facilitated authoritarianism. And that is a threat to lawmakers. That is a threat to other countries that are dealing with President Donald Trump, that are negotiating with President Donald Trump, that are trying to make fair trade deals with President Donald Trump, that are ending wars because of Donald Trump, that are helping President Donald Trump end wars. He's not going to look kindly on, I don't know, who else has been facilitating? The voters? This is Jamie Raskin openly threatening Republican lawmakers, Republican allies, and Republican voters that if and when we come back, they're keeping a list. This is something they do. This was AOC's big thing. AOC, man, remember, she kept a list. She said, we need to keep a list of all these lawmakers so that when we come back to power, we can take care of them all. We can go after them. These are the fascists. These are the I mean, you want to talk about extremes. You want to talk about Marxists. You want to talk about people that are like Lenin and Stalin. They're making lists so that if and when they come back to power, they can go after their political adversaries. And we know that they will, because that's what they always do. That's what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden used every agency he had, the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, the CDC, the IRS. He had every single three-letter agency he could find go after President Donald Trump and stop him in his tracks, or try to. And now Jamie Raskin saying, by the way, we're keeping a new list and we're going to do it again. I think it's going to be a long time before they come back to power. Knock on wood. So hopefully we won't have to worry about that list. But another thing that I wanted to share with you was this whole thing with Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace, who yesterday, we played the video for you, and I'm not going to play it again because there's wordy dirds, but she was, I guess, shopping for makeup. And in the makeup aisle where she was a dude in Daisy Duke shorts also shopping for makeup, because apparently the bearded guy with Daisy Dukes and Nancy Mace from South Carolina, apparently they wear the same brand of makeup. So they're in the makeup aisle, and he started saying something to her, and she started saying something back, and they got into it. And then he asked about a town hall meeting, and she whipped out her phone and started recording him. And then there was some back and forth, whatever. Then there were some F-bombs being dropped. And then anyway, so Nancy Mace was on Fox News, and she was asked about this video that she posted, by the way. This was a video that she recorded and she posted, and she wanted to make the point that if you come at me anytime, anywhere, any place, 24/7, 365, I will be ready to take you down.
Well, he started up on me prior to this, and I fumbled. I tried to get my phone out as quick as I could, but I had a bag, and I tried to pull it out fast and start recording as much as I could. I've decided that I'm going to start recording these people in public. I probably don't have enough iPhone space on my phone, but I deal with this stuff day in and day out. This was the third incident I had last week alone. And the week before that, there was a man in Pennsylvania who was arrested from Butler, Pennsylvania, that threatened the president, President Trump. I was the only member of Congress. He threatened to put a bullet in my skull. Most of this stems from my position about protecting women and girls in private spaces. And inherently, as a woman, when a man like this comes up to me and is aggressive in public or private, inherently, I'm going to fight back. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to be a strong woman, because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Men like this, it's not okay. This kind of aggression is going to get someone hurt or worse. And it's not something I condone. I'll stand up and fight for every woman and girl everywhere.
Yeah. And so that then yesterday at some kind of meeting, she had another incident with a man or a woman. There's a lot of them who came to a town hall that she had, and this is something she posted again.
So does your husband call you babe? I'm not married. Okay, so even better. And I don't care. Okay, so I would like for you to apologize because that is derogatory. And second of all, is tranny derogatory to you?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course the fucking is. Oh, God, there's so much cursing. Sorry, I didn't even realize there was cursing. But this guy's voice drops. He's like talking like a woman. He's arguing with Nancy Mace. And then when she says, is this word derogatory to you? He goes, well, yeah. It's really, the whole world of Nancy Mace is just, it's very interesting to me. It's entertaining as you know what. But I just realized there's a lot more. I'm going to have to stop playing these clips because there's a lot of cursing. I wish that we were in a day where we could still not curse in public the way that we used to, or the way that we do now, because I feel like it would be a lot less editing for me. And less editing for me is always the preference. Less preparation on my part is always something that I'm looking for in my life. Listen, there's a lot of other stuff that was going on. There was some Rosie O'Donnell stuff that was going on. There's some other stuff that's popping up. The best thing for you to do, if you don't yet subscribe to our show, or if you don't yet subscribe to our podcast, or follow us on social media, or set those notifications, is to do all of those things. Subscribe. Set those notifications. Make sure that you're getting our content every single time we publish it, because we publish it all the time. I got a video coming out in like an hour. So I want you to make sure that if you're listening to the podcast, you go to iTunes, you go to Spotify and say, let me have this content whenever it comes available. Let me enjoy this content every single time Mark Kaye posts it, because I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's happening. I need to know who's coming after me. I need to know what they're saying about me. I need to know who the attackers are so I can be prepared to fight back against them. I need to know who's in my face so I can get right back up in their face. I need to know that we are all together, that there's so many of us. I need to know that we have a coalition of liberty, love, and freedom defending Kayetriots who are going to have my back, and whose back I can have when the stuff goes down. Because as we just saw with Jamie Raskin, they're not giving up. They're doubling down. They're making lists. They're making lists of everybody who facilitated the totalitarianism of President Donald Trump. And that means you, if you voted for him. That means you, if you supported. That means you, if you posted anything pro-Trump or wearing a red MAGA hat or any of that stuff on any of your timelines or social media. They've got you on a list. And God forbid they ever come back to power, they're coming after you. And you need to be ready. You need to be willing. You need to be able to fight, so that we can save the Republic.